I've been competing vigorously for a year, and I've been training for about 3 to 4 years. A few of my accomplishments are I hope you guys have heard of the spinnies challenge that takes part here in Dubai. So it's a 100-kilometer challenge, and last year I ended up winning the junior classification with a 15-minute lead from the second and third place. And then in the successive race, which was a 60-kilometer flat race at Green Mubazarat, I ended up taking the age classification over there as well. So I've been competing a lot, and I'm just going to explain a few techniques which I use to really help build up your mental strength for your training and for your racing as well. Now, apart from training your muscles to respond to different types of efforts and different types of intervals, a really important part of this is your mind, because when race day comes or when your training day comes, your mind can make or break that entire workout, and it is absolutely important to build up your mind along with your body. When we're talking about sports psychology, a major part of sports psychology is motivation. And motivation is essentially a process that influences our direction, our persistence, our and our goal directed behavior. Now, to understand motivation, the process of motivation, it acts as a cycle. So there's a need, then there's a drive, then there's a arousal, and then there is a goal directed behavior, and then finally when you have completed the tasks, which is completion, your motivation fades away or dissolves. And then so for an example, you could take quenching your thirst. So the need is when you understand that you feel thirsty, and then you are aroused to get a glass of water, which is a goal directed behavior. And once achieved, which is quenching your thirst, you no longer have any motivation to pick up a glass of water or pick up a bottle of water or anything like that. So when talking about sports psychology, motivation is really important. And one part of motivation is goal setting. I found that a lot of the times, people talk about short-term goals and long-term goals. Uh, so for me personally, short-term goals and long-term goals don't work, because when you classify them as goals, whether it is short-term or long-term, when you achieve those goals, your motivation just fades away after that. So what happened, I think, in a few races, after completion, I didn't feel the need to cycle anymore, or I didn't feel the need. Okay, fine, I've completed everything that I wanted. I'm happy with it. Let me just stop right then and there. Um, so what really helps is that you keep one goal in mind. What is the ultimate thing that you want to do with regard to cycling? What is the ultimate thing that you want to do? And you keep that as your only goal. And whatever races that come up or whatever steps that you need to take to reach those goals, is you should be considering them as your milestones or as your tests, not necessarily as a short-term goal. For example, my ultimate goal is become national time trial championship. Is to become a national time trial champion. And what I do is, instead of considering the spinnies race, or instead of considering any of the public time trial races as short-term goals to reach that, I would consider them as a test. Because once you finish one test, you think, okay, what's the next test that I can do? Okay, then the third, then the fourth, and then that's how you keep your motivation level throughout your cycling uh, cycling timeline. Yeah. And the next thing I want to talk about is when it comes to group riding. Now, group riding is fun. Everybody enjoys group riding. I mean, you can chat with a lot of people, and you can really show off your abilities in the group. Um, so it provides a very suitable area or to train or to do long rides or etc. Now, when I was when I started to train, I used to do about 3.5 hour rides or 4 hour rides on the weekends. And there is always that period of 50 kilometers or 70 kilometers when when you're doing nothing. I mean, you're just pushing the pedals, and the person right next to you might not be chatty, so you won't have any pieces of conversation. So essentially what happens is you'll end up feeling bored on the bike, and when that happens, your performance can go down, because once you start to feel bored, you're like, okay, why am I even doing this? Okay, this is really boring, or anything like that. And that decreases your performance. So what you should end up doing is occupying your mind. Now, this is subjective, meaning that what works for me may not necessarily work for you. But in my case, what I started doing was I do a lot of maths at home. So I end up multiplying a 4 digit number, say 9,857, by by a 2 digit number, or a 3 digit number like 358. So I never arrive at the answer, but it just keeps my mind busy throughout the 70 kilometers wherein there no action takes place. Now, I do maths, which is boring, okay, for some others, but you could end up reciting a poem. You could end up just humming to the to songs. You could end up just trying to find the ideal drafting position behind the person in front of you. So whatever keeps you busy. And also another thing is that suppose you are riding a bike, your sole attention is only given to riding a bike. And what practicing these kind of techniques does is that it branches your attention. So meaning that when you're riding the bike and you are thinking of nothing else, then you end up perceiving the pain in your legs as a lot. You end up thinking, okay, the guy next to me is riding pretty closely. You end up thinking, okay, this group is going pretty fast. So all that can lead to a buildup of nervousness or anxiety, which can also hinder your performance. And by branching your attention, you end up, giving a little bit of focus to other aspects of your mind, or other aspects of um, your whatever you're doing, and that also keeps you alert as well. There are many theories that say that when you sort of branch your attention, or you have some divided attention, it actually makes you more alert and more attentive to certain details in your surrounding environment. So, uh, but I do not condone, putting in earbuds and going for group rides, blasting music and going for your group rides. Just because I said that keep your mind busy, please do not do that, because that completely blocks your sensory receptors. And yeah, what essentially you should be doing is not diverting your attention, but just dividing your attention. That's another technique. Um, if okay, so suppose the group is going like really fast, you're only able to sustain about 33 to 34 kilometers per hour, but then the person right next to you, when you're pulling, he's going at 40, 42. Essentially what you want to be doing is kind of dividing his attention. So what I normally do is, if the group used to go really fast, when I'm at the front, I ended up talking to the person next to me, or like really engaging in a conversation with the person next to me, because once he does that, then essentially he's kind of forced to slow down to retain a good level of engagement in the conversation. So that's another tip. Now, this is not necessarily not like a technique, but it's more of an explanation of what I found in the past few months of training. So, suppose you have a training interval of a recovery wattage of 180 watts, and then you have a good training block of 250 watts, which you have to sustain for about 13 to 14 minutes. Essentially, when you finish that recovery of 180 watts, and then you get into that 250 watt kind of block, then at the beginning, I'm sure everybody feels like it's really hard and I'm really tired. And I think, and this kind of pain is gonna, hurt me. So people necessarily sometimes stop after the first 5 to 6 minutes because they think that it's too hard. But what actually happens is that suppose I'm riding at 180 watts, my heart rate is around 140 or 150. And to have a good energy resource at 250 watts, your heart should be pumping at about 180, or for me, it pumps at 180, 190. So essentially, when you start that training block, it takes a good amount of time for your heart rate to pick up. And it's within that 5 minutes or 6 minutes, or it can even be 3 minutes, wherein you feel like really tired and you feel really mentally challenged. I mean, mentally, um, uh, you struggle kind of. So because there's one point wherein you're pushing 250 watts, but then you're maintaining a recovery heart rate of 140. So within that 3 minutes of struggle, or within that 5 minutes of struggle, if you kind of um, think that this isn't what the effort is going to look like, and that after a few minutes it's going to dampen down, then that really helps. Or you could again distract yourself by trying to chase people in front of you. Or you could also keep an empty mind, and this is really important when you're having really hard training blocks. We normally think of, okay, how much time is left, am I pushing the right amount of watts, um, at what speed am I going at. So these are essentially deterrents, meaning they really thinking about these things makes it a struggle. So if you can keep a really empty mind, if you can keep an image of a desktop background in your brain, okay, and just not think about these kind of factors, as in how much time is left, what speed am I going at, oh my god, my legs are burning. So if you can keep an empty mind, then definitely a 5 minute interval can seem as though it was just 2 minutes. And this is what I've actually experienced in the past few months. Um, yeah. Now, if you have, say, a really hard ride, but it's very long, say about 2.5 hours to 3 hours, or you have certain training intervals that you feel is going to be really hard for you, my advice is to get a group who have the same kind of caliber, or who put out the same performance as you, because psychologically, when you're in a group or when you're being spectated by a few people, you tend to increase in your performance or decrease in your perception of the amount of fatigue you're going through. And this is called social facilitation, meaning the society around you or the environment around you containing an audience, or containing people doing the same tasks as you, they tend to increase your performance. And essentially, yeah, if you have these kind of hard training intervals, either pick up a group and do the training intervals with them, or you can actually go to a track that is kind of busy with a lot of serious cyclists who know the proper rules of the track. You can go there and do, because just having people surrounding you and as an audience can also really boost your performance. um, Now if you're thinking of setting up a group, or picking out groups for specific training, and you're looking to improve your performance, a really dynamic group can be important. So a really dynamic group consists of people who are stronger compared to you, and people who are slightly slower as compared to you. Because what essentially happens is that when you kind of ride with the people who are a little bit slower than you, then you end up thinking, yes, I am very good in my performance, I have been working hard, and just being a little bit faster is I can really notice it. And having a lot of stronger people in front of you or with you, that can also, trigger a response saying that, okay, there are people stronger than me. I need to catch up with them that one time. I need to, become as strong as them. So this is kind of like a perfect ideal and a very dynamic group to ride in. Now, what I found is that, especially during this the current scenario, um, there aren't any races. I mean, there weren't any announcement of races. Races were continuously getting cancelled, postponed. Sponsors were falling out, and it can really pull you down. You can end up losing months of hard work just by uh, not riding, or just feeling really down, because as I said, your mental strength can make it or break it. And what essentially happens is that um, every time you get onto the bike, you feel as if all your energy is drained. And an important thing during that time is, like, when you're feeling demotivated and you are on the verge saying that, okay, I'm totally tired of the bike right now, take a break. Like, take maybe 1 week off, take a few weeks off. Okay, because psychologically, if you continue to do the activity that your mind and your body is telling you not to, or it doesn't want to do, then essentially after an extended period of time, you end up developing feelings of hatred towards that feeling of physical exertion, or you end up feeling really you end up connecting the emotion of being down to riding a bike. So if you're feeling really demotivated, take a break. You know, don't cycle for some time, because essentially when you don't, ultimately you'll develop feelings again. It's almost as a cycle. Um, yeah, and and here's another technique. If you want to hype yourself up, if you've got an important training to do today, if you've got an important race to do today, and you need to really hype yourself up, what I would do is uh, I would go online and I would look for a few quotes. Now, these quotes can be of different natures. For me, I'm kind of like a very uh, hardworking type of um, guy, and essentially I look at these quotes wherein the main meaning of it is to work hard. So I read certain quotes like, "Dreams don't work unless you do," "You are your only limit." I mean, "Keep on hustling." Those kind of quotes, and those really fire me up. Essentially, quotes which you read should give you chills. Like, it should be like, oof, you should get goosebumps. You could read about being calm in a storm. You could read about you could even read about showing up people who aren't necessarily liking you. Like, I'm going to show them who I'm going to be. I'm going to show everybody who what's going to happen in the future. So those kind of quotes which get you fired up. And when half an hour before the ride, make it a point to listen to some music. Now, this music uh, should essentially be of a very high tempo. That is half an hour before the ride. Because essentially what you want to be doing is that you want to kind of raise your heart rate a little bit, and you want to really get into that zone of being hyped up or being fired up. Um, and then once you're about half an hour into the training, once you're about 20 minutes into the training, then essentially play some music of kind of slow tempo, not that fast and not that slow, because what it does is it slows down and calms your body, so that you utilize your resources more efficiently. And then again, if you have some more intervals, then play some really hyped up music. uh, Hyped up music can be any language, any genre, anything, but make it of a high tempo for intervals, and a low tempo during long extended periods of time. So suppose you have a low endurance of about 2 hours, play some play some slow music in the middle, and then some really really fast music at the end, because that's essentially when you're going to be sprinting, or trying to show your um, uh, catching a break skills to your group mates or anything. um, then when it comes, oh yeah, one important thing is that in your training, you have to know your limits. So this is, I've learned it the hard way. In March, I'm sure everybody would have been Zwifting in during lockdown period, and the Zwift races, everybody knows that they are really hard. And uh, in March, sorry, in June, I didn't know that there are these certain people who change their weight and then end up being in the wrong classification. So I thought, okay, these are all people of my performance who are, racing actually. So I ended up, I tried gunning for the top position. I was at what, third place or something in the last 8 kilometers. No, 7 kilometers. It was a 15-kilometer race. Um, it was a crit race, and it was very fast. And I ended up blowing up and essentially blacking out on the cycle. Uh, yeah, I fell from the indoor trainer. I ended up spoiling 1 or 2 weeks worth of training because I couldn't get onto the bike after a week or a week and a half. I think, yeah, week and a half. And what I would say is that it's really important to know your limits, especially when you're in a group ride. If you feel like you're blowing up and you're just touching the limit, slow down. Just completely slow down, or maybe take it down a notch, and then get back up again, and then slow down, get back up again. But don't go above and beyond, because even though that day you might be able to go beyond your limit, but the next day you'll either be sore or you just won't feel like getting onto the bike, and you'll spoil 1 week of training, which is much more important than one day's. Yeah, this so these are all a few techniques which I've used in my races, in my group rides, in my training. And essentially what you should be doing is you should be experimenting with yourself. um, oh yeah, another technique. If you want to be more motivated, then tinker around with your bike. I found that actually, changing the saddle position or changing the shifters, bending them inside or bending them outside, or changing the stem height, stem length, all those can actually motivate you to ride the bike, because you'll be like, okay, I've tried out this position. Let me see if I can get more aero. And then the next week you can be like, okay, yeah, this really improved my performance by about 3 watts. So let me see if I can make it even better. So tinkering around with your bike, looking at, how to maintain your bike, washing your bike, all those can just maintain a steady stream of motivation. So these are all the techniques which I've used throughout my racing and throughout my training. And yeah, it's just really interesting to use these techniques. Yeah. So thank you all. And if you want to follow me, then I have an Instagram account, and it is in the chat. So yes, it's on Instagram.
Yeah, you can put that in the chat, Aditya. There you go. Very good. At wheelies.cc, is that right?
Yeah, but I think I added in
Okay.
I think I added in an extra.
Okay, no issues. We can share this on the WhatsApp. But yeah, really interesting presentation. Thank you, Aditya. Certainly, you touched upon a lot of the themes that, and the last bit, what you said is the experimenting bit, which is absolutely true. Someone who has 15, 20 years of experience doing endurance training, he must have experimented, or she must have experimented with a lot of whatever you're saying. Yeah, it certainly rings a bell with what you said about playing with your bike. as a person new into cycling, you're just really, you stare and wonder at this new instrument you have, and it definitely helps learning by yourself, doing things yourself to increase the motivation. Absolutely. Um, I've never blacked out in a Zwift race, but I think I would argue that Zwift kind of takes care of the whole know your limits thing by giving you categories. So if you're jumping into the wrong category, then then you might not be knowing your limits. But I think what that touches upon really is, while this has all been about the psychology of the self, in a race, the presence of the opponent, the rival itself, influences you. And there's a lot of good research on this. Certainly, I mean, this is a practical reality. When we race, our best performances come from the race. Wouldn't you all agree? I mean, there's no point in, I mean, if you're training and doing personal bests in training and underperforming in the race, then there's something wrong. But in all my races, at least, um, the best performances have come in the race. And certainly there is a very perceivable effect from the opponent. So I would absolutely agree that even in a group ride that comes into play, knowing, what your whoever is in the group with you, how they are thinking, what their body language is like, absolutely important in a group setting. Um, and all the other stuff that you talked about, hyping yourself up with music, absolutely, lots of research about how music affects you. And the high tempo, it's everyone has their own little their favorite music. I certainly like the high tempo, especially when doing high intensity training. But during the days when I want to do a long 2-3 hour ride, I like to play like Buddha Bar or something, just kind of a nice mellow tune. I don't know if anyone else has something to share about music, but that certainly is one topic that you can expand on. You can spend an entire day talking about how music affects you. um, and on the theme of music, we lost such a wonderful music talent in our country. If you heard the news, he died due to COVID, SBB, yesterday. But anyone has any questions for Aditya on a very nice, interesting topic, please just raise your hand, and then you can unmute yourself. If you're shy to talk, then we can put the questions in the WhatsApp group. Okay, if no one has a question, I have a question. So you touched upon social facilitation, Aditya. This whole idea of, when people are watching you, you tend to get encouraged and motivated, and you perform all the more better. And this is, I think it kind of marries with the whole social acceptance of what you're doing, the family acceptance and their encouragement. So certainly you don't go to very high levels if you don't have family backing, whatever you're trying to achieve, especially at the very high levels. But recently there's this phenomena, you can see it amongst the younger athletes a lot. A lot of these younger athletes are starting Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts, and separate accounts. Sometimes, they separate the family account, the Facebook account, from the athlete account. My question to you is, and I've always thought about it, do you think that the people who do this, they're trying to kickstart social facilitation? Obviously, they're sharing the news and developments of their training with people, but in turn, are they getting a kick out of all the kudos and the encouragement and the comments they get? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you do get a lot of motivation just by posting, because suppose, so making an Instagram account, even though I haven't been committed to posting a lot, but it does keep you in check. Meaning, if you post a lot of pictures, if you post weekly reports of how you're doing, then certainly, you can, it's a subconscious checklist that, okay, I have to get my stories out, I have to get my posts out. And how do I get my posts out? I have to write and I have to train. So those keep you in check. And really, when so it's like just venting out, because if you have something to share, if you have something to express, then by using these sort of channels or social media, you express your abilities, you express your talent to others, and you're not thinking about who all you're affecting, but it's just about you, that you are accepting yourself, you are looking up on your previous performances, you are showing a steady incline of development. So it's all those factors that come into play when you're talking about posting in Instagram or anything like that. And obviously, if you do get the congratulations or the kudos, you feel like you've been congratulated, or you feel like you've been appreciated by people who are not subjective or who are objective, meaning you so essentially, when you have family backing, you always expect them to say kudos, you always expect them to say thank you, and awesome, you're really doing well. But when you get appreciation from random strangers, or just a group of mates you ride with, that can really boost your confidence. And when you boost, and an important part is boosting your confidence. Boost confidence, you boost your motivation.
Wow, very good answer there. And yeah, I mean, if none of you have Instagram accounts, let's go with the experimenting theme. Maybe this year you all want to try and do this, make an Instagram account and see what effect it has on you. I mean, hey, I mean, there's no, it's a trial, right? Like everything else in life. Um, there are good things and bad things, but try it. You never know if it works for you. I certainly don't have an Instagram account of my own, but I can see how it can motivate you, definitely. And I can also see how it might distract you. Certainly, when you have a lot of fans that you want to keep in touch with, and they're all messaging you, I guess it's good to it. In my mind, someone who has an Instagram account and who's very popular will be very grounded. Like they would be very focused, and they would know what they want to do in life, and where they are headed, and they would know how to manage the distractions. So that's the other side of having too much social media. But anyway, it's great. This is a very good topic. We have run out of time, unfortunately. If anyone thinks that this is an interesting topic to continue the conversation, we can definitely have another session where we can kind of build on this and maybe even focus more on topics like music, how music affects you, which I very much appreciate the effect of music on the mind. So let's continue the chat in the WhatsApp. Thank you so much, Aditya, for your time. Just real quick before you all go, I want to take a screenshot of this. I don't know if you want to turn off on your cameras, but just to there you go. Everyone's come out of hiding now. We have Subbu as well, one of the top triathletes India's produced. He has joined in from Massachusetts today. Subbu, are you? There you go. Hey, nice to see you. Okay, everyone, don't worry about your bedtime faces and all that, but we can touch it up. Okay, let me do it once more. Everyone smile. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, guys. And let's keep the conversation active. All the best with your training. And if you like cycling, don't miss out tomorrow's UCI World Men's Elite Championships. That will be very motivating.
Thanks, Aditya. See you guys.
Cheers.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.